Welcome to this Wargames Delivered tutorial for Bolt Action Band of Brothers. I'll be showing you how to paint the ruined building that comes in the box, and I'll be using the Wargames Delivered Mega Paint set to do so. So sit back and get ready to follow along. Painting this ruined building has been nice and straightforward. So the first thing I've done is primed it all with matte white primer from Army Painter, and we're going to paint all of the inside building stones and mortar first. And the colour we're going to use that is Basilisk Brown. So we can go fairly fast here, and it should cover okay over the white undercoat. Try and get a solid coat. Don't worry if you haven't got one, because we are going to shade this and then paint it up later. And if it's not a solid coat, that'll just help with the impression of differences in the stone. So get all that done with Basilisk Brown. Then we'll come back and move on to the next colour, which will be these coping stones. So we'll do those coping stones next, and the colour we can use for this is Necrotic Flesh. And very simply, exactly the same way, we're just going to paint over all of these stones. So it's nice and easy, nice and straightforward. You could probably use a bigger brush than I'm using if you've got a bigger brush. But you can see the differentiation in colour in that, the stones, and this as well. And I know it's all going to be quite bright and light at the moment, but we will shade it down with some strong tone and dark tone, and maybe even some military shader in some places, just to add a bit of colour differentiation. So work your way around, get that done, get all these parts done too, and then we'll come back and we'll get on with painting the wood next. We'll paint all the wood next, and the colour we're going to use for this is Oak Brown. Now I've thinned this down a little bit, and this is not the best covering paint in the world. We do want a nice dark brown, so this is probably the only one that I'm going to put a second layer on, just to firm up the colour. Obviously we'll shade and highlight it all as well. So just get that done, and then when we come back we'll do the chimney pot, which we want to just make like kind of like a ceramic clay colour, I suppose. And then we'll get to shading, and that shading is we're gonna shade the whole model at the same time with the same colour. So get that done, nice and simple, and we'll come back and do the chimney. While we let that second coat of Oak Brown dry, and actually looking at that, I'm quite happy with the result. We'll paint the chimney pot, and I'm using Fur Brown for this one, just to get that kind of reddy terracotta effect. We'll add some smoke effect to it soon enough. So just get that painted. You may need a second coat on this, and then when we come back we need to make sure everything's completely dry, and then we will shade everything all at once. So it's time to shade everything now that it's all dry, and we're going to use Strong Tone, which is a brown wash colour, and we're also going to mix it with some Quickshade wash medium, about 50-50, so 1 part wash, 1 part medium. And you're going to need a fairly big brush for this, and what we're going to do is we're just going to brush it on to the model and make sure that it goes into all of the nooks, etc. Nice and simple. So just do that all over the model. Don't forget the inside of it as well. I want to make sure we get it into there, because it's going to give us that nice effect for the mortar as well. And then once that's dry, we'll come back. One thing to make sure of is when you tip the model this way, obviously gravity is going to take effect, start pulling it down. So you may want to put some paper down, just to make sure that when it dries it doesn't make too much of a mess. So get that done all over. It is going to take quite a while to dry. You could speed it up using a hairdryer, but you should be careful you don't blow the wash into places you don't want to blow it. So we'll get that done, and then when we come back we will start to highlight everything with a very simple dry brushing effect that will start to pick out all this detail. It's important to make sure that wash is completely dry, and what we're going to do now is dry brush all of these elements. So the first thing we're going to do is focus on the pebbles, and the colour we're using here is Troll Claw, and I'm using a small Master Series dry brush from Army Painter, and I'm just painting down across all of these areas, and that'll give the first highlight. We will come in and put a second highlight in, and that second highlight will be with a lighter colour again, just to simulate the stone. just do this, take your time, make sure you catch everything. Don't worry too much if you go over the edge and catch something else, because we'll have an opportunity to clear that up. If you do have any areas where that shade has settled quite heavily, then you can go back over and dry brush again just to fill it in a little bit. But you can see it's starting to give a more stone-like appearance there. So just work your all the way around, get those highlighted, and we'll do the capstone highlight next. We'll also use that highlight then to do a little bit of the stones as well. For highlighting all of these stones, I'm going to use a bigger dry brush. This is a medium Master's dry brush, and the colour I'm using is Skeleton Bone. So what I'm looking to do is just lightly circular motions, and that'll start to just pick up on some of the colours on there, and you can start to see it's really starting to mute it down a little bit, which is really the effect we're going for across the model, because it's obviously a ruined building which has been destroyed either through neglect or gunfire. The other thing we're going to do is we're just going to lightly use this over some of those pebbles and stones, and again this is just giving you that little bit of differentiation in colour, but also desaturating everything and just helping to bring that colour into line. So just do this all over. If you've got a little bit of pooling here, like this here, then you can work that skeleton bone over it, and I'm working that in fairly hard. And the reason I say that is because we are going to go over it with the final technique just to highlight that all up, but we want to make sure that it's not too dark, so that the white highlight we put on there isn't too stark. We'll do this wood next, and the colour we're using for that is leather brown, and again we're just flicking the brush over these surfaces because it's just giving it a light highlight. And what we'll do is we'll go back in and add some charred effects from smoke to show a little bit of a burning element. It's really easy to do, but we'll just focus on this for now. Just take your time and make sure to not get this all over the shop. And again, it just desaturates everything because it'll kind of blend into the background. You don't want this to be the best looking thing on the battlefield. You just want it to be an element that's on there. So get that done, and then when we come back, we'll add some burning to this and the chimney pot just there. Again, really simple to do, and then we've just got the white stucco to do, which is the last thing, and then we're done. To add a soot effect to some of this wood, we're just going to very lightly dry brush some matte black. It's really important that you haven't got too much on your brush at all, and we're just focusing on the ends. And you can see there we're just darkening those down a little bit, so it looks like they're charred and that they've had a little bit of flame fire burning around them. And what you can do then is you can just aim a little further back and blend that in as well. And one thing you'll notice from this part perhaps is that it's a little shiny. The last thing we'll do is just matte down all of these areas. And when we've got the chimney pot just here, again we're just going to paint some soot around it to give the impression of use. So again, it's nice and easy, really simple techniques that get you nice quick effects, so you can focus more on playing than having to worry about painting everything. So get all that done, add as little charring as you want, because you can always go back and add more. It's always better to do that, because once it's on, it's much more difficult to take off. So with that done, we'll do the white stucco next, and we're finished. The last thing we're going to do is add some matte white over all the white stucco areas, and we're going to prepare the brush exactly the same way as you would for a dry brush. So wipe it all off on a bit of towel, and then what we're going to do is stipple this over the stucco. And what we're looking for is just dabbing around like that, focusing on the big part in the middle, and this will start to really brighten that up a little bit. So just work your way around and add a little bit to start with. You can always go back and add more if you need to, but it's really simple, really straightforward. It's really quite effective. Once that's done, that's all we'll have left to do is pop some matte varnish on, and the building is done. And when it comes to matte varnishing, we can just take a nice big brush and work this over all of the building. So it's nice and simple, nice and straightforward. This will protect it a little bit. It'll take off any shine that we may have built up through things like the strong tone coat, for example. And there we are. That's everything. So we let that dry. One thing to be careful of when it comes to varnish is don't let it pool too much, because if it does pool too much and dries too quickly, then it can leave, matte varnish in particular, can leave you with white marks. You can fix them by painting gloss varnish over them and then rematting them, but it saves time to do it all in one. So just work your way around, get that done, and then we'll have a look at it on the turntable next because the building's finished. And there we have it. This ruin building is done and ready for the bolt action battlefield. Make sure you check out all of our other tutorials so that you know how to paint the whole box. We're also going to give away one Band of Brothers set to a lucky winner. You have just 2 days to enter from the release date of this video, so make sure you do so using the link in the description. Remember to check out Wargames Delivered for all your wargaming hobby needs. Our link is below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.